correction is now entering the market. We can see that the cryptocurrency market still stays somewhere close to $1.25 trillion, but we are observing something different on the macro. We do understand the fact that yes, they can print as much dollar as they want, so they're not going to default, but that does give you the idea if they actually do that. This is the simple definition. Meaning, if they are doing that, the world is going to abandon that as a currency, and they believe that they are moving away. Right now, with the rates going up, everyone is giving you the same idea. So that's the macro perspective. And while that's true, when we look at the cryptocurrency space and how things are evolving, the rumor of Ripple and SEC meeting is now slowly spreading in the market. Now, the thought process here is like, okay, do they think this can be solved outside the court? And I'm like, okay, the final judgment is what we are actually waiting for. Now, if they go on saying, now, even if they support Ripple or SEC as a judgment, I think the other guys may actually go take it to the Supreme Court. They may actually do an appeal. So right now, the thought process is, if they settle saying, okay, XRP, the asset is not a security, but what they have sold before is a security, that still gives some clarity because the utility part of this asset is now increasing. Now, we all know that the level of adoption is increasing all the way higher. Now, another perspective which we have to understand is, okay, maybe this guy's right, maybe this guy's wrong, but at least in last couple of years, what we have observed is this guy comes out, says something, and the market does the exact opposite. So right now, when you enter the market does show you like, okay, it's showing you a pattern, and most likely it's going to follow that. So once you take a step back, you understand, okay, that pattern drop may end up for XRP somewhere close to 0.42. Now that is on the 3-day chart. Then you go on to the Bitcoin to see like, okay, how long this may actually take, right? We are looking at the supports. We understand like, okay, these are the level of supports. That can happen. Now, what's the positive thought process? Do we really have a positive side of it? And that is where this scenario plays out. We had the 3-wave structure, which did end up testing the first level of support and getting reversed, going back up. That was a great chart. If we get that, it's bullish. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys get to learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. Right now, as we look at Bitcoin, we do see like, okay, last couple of times, as the MACD crossed to the downside on a 3-day chart, we saw like it took like 60 days to reach a capitulation bottom. Before that, when we got the MACD cross, it actually took 65 days to reach a capitulated bottom. So now we are going back, and that's a different trend. One, it was coming all the way back up, and this one was returning back down. So one is in a corrective trend and one is in a markup phase going up. So right now, if you believe that we are going higher, now we focus more on this side, which gives us like, okay, 57 days. Now, in number of days, it's kind of average 60 days. We're not actually looking too much off that level. But what's more interesting is the volatility, or the way the price stays there before it actually drops, like making a short-term distribution pattern. It was visible back in the days here, and right now on the short-term scenario, we are observing something similar. While we look at the RSI, it does show you like I'm at a support, but as soon as I break that, I'm going lower. So that is a concern if you are following Bitcoin. That is a concern if you understand that Bitcoin kind of pushes the entire market. Now, there are very few assets which are right now moving in the market. We understand that. A lot of others who are trying to move up are getting slowed down with this correction. Now, As we go look at smaller assets, we see huge fluctuations. So being in the market, being leveraged in assets where the market is so small, it's going to be super risky. You need to really look for the supports. You need to literally look for where this can go in the worst case scenario. So here, I think on a weekly, the moving average, 21-day moving average, is close to 23,500. So I would say, okay, we are going to drop to that level. And when we actually combine that with a moving average channel, it kind of gives us the idea, okay, we still have some ways to go. This is kind of, adding on to that standard deviation. Like, it kind of works most of the time. I've been following this to learn how these things actually evolve. And here it shows you first time it reached there, it bounced off. Then it went through. It came back up, tested that as a resistance. So this range kind of literally works. Now, while you look at that, we understand the fact that it bounces at the midpoint, it comes through the last point. So it's kind of easy way to understand whether we are above that or below that. Now you go back in history and you understand once you go above that, you come down, but you're not changing the trend. The trend changed here. The moment you went up after a major correction, that was your signal to the upside. Same, when you were going up, the moment you went below this, that should be the recovery signal to the downside. So if you are a bear, that's great for you. If you are a bull, that's bad. Now, the market actually shows if you are a bull, this is going to be a good few weeks, meaning the price is going to drop. And if you are a bull, what are you trying to do? You want to buy this asset believing that it is going to go higher. If you believe it's going to go higher, then you want to buy that lower. Right? And that is where when you zoom in the same channel on different time horizon, you get to see like, okay, we are bouncing first time and we are coming back down second time. But what's more interesting in my thought process is like, okay, we are literally making lower highs. So that's on a 3-day chart. So you can see that even more clearly on a daily chart or going even lower time frames. But the point here is the first low which you created is close to $27,000, after which you made a lower high. Now the odds are higher that you may actually make a lower low here. So that would be a trend to the downside on that time horizon. So we can literally talk towards a point where the price action is about to do a pattern like this, which we have. Now, it's not new. We have seen something similar before. Now, the only difference here is last time when it actually played out, the actual range was much smaller. Now, the reason for that is it was not as a part of the first major wave. If we are looking to understand like what the bigger picture here is. Now, a lot of different assets are showing you different structures. We've been going through that on detail, right? A lot of these different assets, some of them are at support, some of them are bouncing off from support, some of them are hitting the resistance, which is bad. Now, if you see another asset which is just moving to the support, now you know, okay, there is some room to the downside. You get that point, right? So if you are in the market and looking for opportunities, that may actually help, and it's all here. Now we jump back here. Look at this. This is the Bitcoin scenario. Now, understanding this is really important because right now, XRP is trying to test a support. So if we drop below, we are looking to hold level of support somewhere close to 0.41, 0.42, or just above 0.4. Now, while you come back to Bitcoin, say you have three-wave structure, which is in this horizon, we'll consider that as a macro, right? Within that, now you will see, okay, you had small structure here, 1, 2, and 3. Completed the correction or went back down, kicked the bottom of the second one. Great. Next one came here, 1, 2, 3. You corrected down all the way back just about where it started or the resistance of wave 1. Now, if we actually think in the same narrative, you're like, okay, there is a possibility we are coming to 24, but now you have two different corrections. which is like, okay, the major one is this. Then you have the green line. That is 1, 2, 3. You're going to correct back down, and most likely you're going to come somewhere close to 25,000. But then you think about like, okay, that's for the green wave structure, which started from mid-March, which ended somewhere early April. Now we are in a correction. Now, if you remember, we've been talking about this from some time. We went through at least 2 to 3 weeks saying this is about to drop, right? 2 weeks before we were having the same idea, giving you guys like there is a massive opportunity coming, and after this drop, what can happen? And we talked through this. Now, if you go into the market and look for last 2 weeks, you understand that we've been going down, down, down. Now, there are volatility to the upside, downside, but your trend is there. Now, coming on to this point, consider this black wave structure as the impulse to the upside and the ABC in black as the corrective wave to the downside. Now, that balances it. That should be the corrective action. For the green, it would be somewhere here, the ABC in green. Now, the small structure here, if that plays out, most likely it will, then it's going to show you a wave structure like this. You are actually correcting down, but when you go inside that correction, now you have this A to B run up, right? And that is what we are observing in my thought process, because some of the times we have seen Bitcoin doing the next wave actually above that level before it drops. Now, it is not new for us. We have seen that all the time, right? We are going all the way back in history and we have seen that. You go back up, you put in a new high and then drop. So learning from history and learning from our mistakes, we kind of get the understanding that, okay, it's better to focus on what the price has shown before and repeatedly again and again, so that we know where to buy. Because you are right now looking at a lot of different assets becoming opportunity. Some of them, yes, they're not opportunity, they're becoming in a red flag territory. Whereas a lot of others are showing you huge opportunities, right? And these opportunities can be taken properly or handled properly if you have patience. Imagine it's going to actually take 50 days. It's going to take 60 days like this. Do you really have that amount of patience to put that dry powder aside and say, I'm going to wait for these supports and then buy at that support? Because historically speaking, we understand the fact that once we reach that support, sometimes it stays there for more time. Then it go back up. So it's not only waiting and buying at that time, then it's like, okay, you'll have to wait before it actually move back up. So now you go into the chart, you're looking at most recent fluctuations. You want to actually see like, okay, how long it actually took this asset to complete one wave to the upside. Here, we observe the fact that Bitcoin just did 3 nano wave structure like this in 23 days. Great. Now, the corrective leg for that was another 20 days. So kind of 90% of the actual run up was the corrective action to the downside. Now we go here, we take the entire run up here. It was 47 days to the upside, in which you see the massive movement to the upside, right? Now you take the corrective action from that and you say, okay, the corrective action was like 20 days. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Last time when it actually did that level of correction, it was 20 days. And by the end of that 20 days, momentum was really higher. Great. Now we come here, we are observing like, okay, right now we have already topped out. That was like 45 days. So if that equation stays true, now we would say like, okay, we would like to see this asset dropping in around 20 days. Now we are at 17th day. Now I'm like, okay, if that's to happen, then maybe next 3 to 5 days is going to be super volatile to the downside, most likely. And if that scenario plays out, now the opportunity is jumping in front of you. Because on a daily, as we just discussed, look at that range, the channel, moving average channel. Combined with the MACD, it kind of gives you a clear perspective. Now, MACD tried to cross to the upside, it got rejected. It's going lower. Price broke through the range, came back, retested the range, and is getting rejected. Last time when this happened, it dropped like this, an ABC after that, which completed the ABCDE pattern. So you go back in the corrective action of this asset, and we see that all the time. Same to the upside, you break to the upside, you retest that, and you bounce back up. So if you go back on the macro and put the argument saying like, okay, it does show you some room to the downside, and we have seen occasions where you come back to the bottom of that range or even the midpoint of that range. It can still be $23,000 per Bitcoin. Now, we all know volatility, when it goes, the fear kind of swings so high, prices drop way lower. If that scenario comes in, now we are looking at $20,000 to $21,000. Now, take that equation and jump onto XRP. Now, if we put that equation in, we can argue that, okay, this support of 0.36 is going to be a huge level of support, and we may come to that point. That's one. Two, if we actually focus on the price pattern direction, we would say it's really hard to say we may actually reach 0.5, because the RSI actually shows you the fact that I'm slowing down, agreed, I'm trending down, agreed, on the short-term movement. But I'm getting closer to the support. One, the horizontal support zone. Two, the rising trend line, because we understood this fact. We went on the daily and we've been following this from some time, and it kind of gives you the narrative. Each time you drop to that range, you bounce off. So that's on a daily. Then you go onto a 3-day chart, and yet again you see that the 3-day chart shows you the RSI is getting so close that it may not really have too long to the downside. So the strength to the downside may not be too high. But the concern here with respect to that of XRP and MACD is, last time when you crossed to the downside, that was exactly when the drop, the heavy drop to the downside came in. So if you actually put that in number of days, it's like maybe a week, just about a week, 9 days, and that correction is over. Now we have already crossed to the downside, and it is 9th day. I'm like, okay, I really have to watch where this candle gets closed. So that's next 3 to 5 days for XRP, which is going to be a crucial movement. Next 3 to 5 days for XRP is important. If it's having major volatility to the downside, now we are talking 0.35. But if you actually look for the scenario which we talked, we are saying, okay, most likely the level is going to hold 0.42, 0.43. You can actually go on at different time horizons like weekly and put the argument saying, okay, the midpoint is 0.4 and the worst point can be 0.39. So it's somewhere close to 0.4. I think that's going to be the support, right? But we have also observed last time we had this volatility going through to the downside. But what we do have to consider was that exactly happened only because of the FTX scenario. That was an unprepared stuff for the market. Yes, we had the thought process of get out of FTT, but we never knew how fraudulent that exchange with their dealings were, right? A lot of different crypto projects dumping everything into the market. That kind of panic will push prices down like that. It's the narrative in the market. Now come here, look at what happened in April, May. You started in May, you actually got the Terra Luna, and the Terror pushed the price lower. No one knew that's going to come in. Same stuff, the volatility was high. But right now, we don't really have something like that unless one of the major crypto exchange or a firm goes bust. We're not talking things like that. We're talking about a bounce from this range. Last time when you broke that to the upside, the retest was heavy. You took there, you stayed there maybe a month and then went back up. Okay, let me put a clear number to that. Yeah, more than that, 70 days, and then bursted to the upside. So the patience is going to be super important here. Maybe that's going to happen as 70 days in wave 1 structure. Most likely in the wave 2 structure, you may see even shorter duration, maybe 30 days, maybe 35 days. Who knows? We'll have to evaluate this as we go. So guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.